The rain came down like needles the night 16-year-old Maya Torres was thrown out of her own home. She stood on the porch, soaked to the bone, staring at her father through the closing door. His face was stone, unmoved by the tears streaming down her cheeks or the thunder cracking overhead. "You're a liar," he said, his voice flat and final. "And I don't keep liars under my roof." Behind him, her stepmother Diane held Maya's younger stepsister close, whispering comfort into the girl's ear, stroking her hair with exaggerated tenderness. The same girl who'd just accused Maya of something she didn't do. The same girl who stood there with dry eyes and a barely concealed smirk. The door slammed shut. The lock clicked with a finality that echoed through Maya's bones. Maya had nowhere to go. No phone to call for help. No money for a bus or a hotel. Just the clothes on her back and a storm that showed no mercy. What she didn't know was that this night, the absolute worst night of her life, would lead her to the one person who'd change everything. But it would take 13 years, a secret investigation, and one devastating confrontation before the truth finally came out. Before we dive deeper, let us know in the comments where you're watching from. We'd love to hear from you. And don't forget to hit that subscribe button so you never miss any of our upcoming videos. Maya stumbled down the front steps, her sneakers already filling with water. The neighborhood was dark, every house locked up tight against the storm. Streetlights flickered as wind bent the trees nearly horizontal. She tried to think through the panic rising in her chest. Where could she go? Her best friend Jenna lived 3 miles away, but Maya had no way to call her. The public library was closed. The 24-hour diner was on the other side of town. So she walked. One foot in front of the other, because there was nothing else to do. The rain was so heavy she could barely see 5 feet ahead. Water ran down her face, into her eyes, down her neck. Her jacket, thin and already worn, did nothing to keep her warm. Within minutes, she was shaking uncontrollably. Maya's mind raced with questions that had no good answers. Why did her father always believe Emma over her? Why did Diane hate her so much? What had she done to deserve this? She'd been a good daughter. She got decent grades. She helped with chores. She never caused trouble. But ever since Diane and Emma moved in 4 years ago, nothing Maya did was ever good enough. At first, it had been small things. Her favorite mug disappearing from the cabinet. Her homework mysteriously torn and stuffed in the trash. Emma wearing Maya's clothes without asking, then claiming they'd always been hers. When Maya complained, her father would sigh and say she was being dramatic. That she needed to try harder to get along with her new family. That she was acting spoiled and ungrateful. Then the accusation started. Missing jewelry that turned up in Maya's room. Money that vanished from Diane's purse, with Emma swearing she'd seen Maya near it. A failing grade on Emma's test that Emma blamed on Maya for distracting her while she studied. Each time, Maya protested her innocence. Each time, her father believed Emma. Each time, the punishment grew harsher. Grounding. Loss of privileges. Extra chores. Angry lectures about responsibility and honesty and family loyalty. Tonight had been the final straw. $200 missing from Emma's room. Emma tearfully insisting she'd seen Maya going through her things. Diane demanding justice. And Maya's father, red-faced and furious, making his choice. Get out. Maya didn't see the headlights until they were right on top of her. The car horn screamed. Tires screeched against wet pavement. Then impact. The world exploded into pain and chaos. Maya's body lifted off the ground and slammed back down onto the asphalt. Agony erupted through her ribs, her shoulder, the back of her head. Rain poured into her open mouth as she gasped for air, choking and coughing. Somewhere through the ringing in her ears, she heard a car door slam open. Footsteps splashing through puddles. A woman's voice, high and panicked. "Oh my God. Oh my God. Please be okay. Please be okay." Hands touched her shoulders, gentle but trembling. Maya tried to focus on the face hovering above her, but her vision kept blurring and doubling. The woman pulled out her phone, fingers shaking so badly she almost dropped it. She dialed 911 with one hand while keeping the other on Maya's arm, as if afraid she might disappear. Stay with me, the woman said, her voice breaking. What's your name? Sweetheart, can you tell me your name? Maya's lips moved, but at first, no sound came out. She coughed, tasted blood, tried again. Maya, she whispered. Okay, Maya. I'm Sienna. Help is coming. You're going to be okay. I need you to stay awake for me. Can you do that? The woman, Sienna, was talking to the emergency dispatcher now, giving their location, describing what happened. Maya heard fragments through the fog of pain. I hit her with my car. She came out of nowhere. Just a kid. Yes, she's conscious. Breathing but injured. Then Sienna was talking to her again. Maya, I need to call your parents. What's their number? Panic cut through the pain. Maya's hand shot out, gripping Sienna's wrist weakly. Don't, she managed. Don't call them. They won't come. Sienna froze, the phone still pressed to her ear. What do you mean they won't come? They kicked me out. Maya's voice cracked, and fresh tears mixed with the rain on her face. They don't want me anymore. For a long moment, Sienna just stared at her. Something flickered across her face. Recognition. Understanding. And beneath that, a deep, familiar pain. Dr. Sienna Grant didn't know this girl. Didn't know her story, her name, anything about her life. But she recognized that look in her eyes. The look of a child who'd been abandoned by the people who were supposed to protect her. She'd seen it before. In a mirror. 13 years ago. Sienna shrugged off her own coat and draped it carefully over Maya's shivering body. Okay, she said softly. Okay, we'll figure this out. But right now, we need to get you to a hospital. Can you hear the sirens? They're almost here. Maya could hear them, growing louder, cutting through the storm. Red and blue lights began to flash against the rain-slicked street. I'm not leaving you, Sienna promised, squeezing Maya's hand. Do you hear me? I'm staying right here. Maya wanted to ask why. Why would a stranger stay? Why would anyone care? But consciousness was slipping away from her like water through her fingers. The last thing she heard before darkness took her was Sienna's voice, fierce and protective, telling the paramedics that she was coming with them to the hospital. That she wasn't letting this girl go through this alone. When Maya opened her eyes, harsh fluorescent lights stabbed into her skull. She groaned, trying to turn her head away, but even that small movement sent pain radiating through her entire body. Easy, a gentle voice said. Don't move too fast. You've got a pretty serious concussion. Maya blinked until the room came into focus. White walls. Beeping machines. The sterile smell of antiseptic. A hospital room. Sienna sat in a chair beside the bed, still wearing her rain-soaked clothes, her dark curly hair plastered to her forehead. She looked exhausted, but her eyes were alert, watching Maya with careful concern. How long? Maya croaked. About 3 hours, Sienna said. You've been in and out. The doctors ran a CT scan and took x-rays. You have a concussion, fractured ribs, and a lot of bruising, but nothing that won't heal. Maya closed her eyes. I'm sorry. For what? For stepping in front of your car. For ruining your night. Stop. Sienna leaned forward, her voice firm but kind. You have nothing to apologize for. This was an accident. And even if it wasn't, even if you'd walked directly into traffic on purpose, you'd still deserve help. You'd still deserve care. A knock at the door interrupted them. A nurse poked her head in, her expression professional but sympathetic. Dr. Grant, your patient's parents just arrived. They're asking to see her. Maya's entire body went rigid. Sienna noticed immediately. Tell them to wait, Sienna said, her tone leaving no room for argument. I need a few more minutes with my patient. The nurse nodded and withdrew. Sienna turned back to Maya, her jaw set. Do you want to see them? She asked quietly. Maya shook her head, then winced at the pain the movement caused. No. But they'll make me, won't they? They're my legal guardians. Not if I have anything to say about it, Sienna replied. And as your attending physician, I have quite a lot to say about it. You're a doctor? Emergency medicine, Sienna confirmed. This is my hospital. And right now, my professional opinion is that you need rest and stability, not additional stress. She stood, straightening her shoulders. I'm going to talk to them. And to social services. You just focus on breathing and staying calm. Okay. Maya nodded, something warm and unfamiliar blooming in her chest. Hope, maybe. Or just the strange feeling of having someone on her side. When Maya's father and stepmother arrived at the hospital, they didn't rush to her bedside with relief and concern. They stood in the hallway outside her room, arms crossed, speaking in hushed, defensive tones that carried just enough for the nurses to exchange knowing glances. Dr. Grant met them there, her posture straight, her expression cold and professional. She'd changed into dry scrubs and pulled her credentials, literally and figuratively, making it clear who held the authority in this space. Mr. and Mrs. Torres, she said, her voice clipped. I'm Dr. Sienna Grant, the attending physician for your daughter. Richard Torres, a tall man with graying hair and tired eyes, shifted his weight uncomfortably. We're here to see Maya. We were told there was an accident. Your daughter has a severe concussion, 3 fractured ribs, a sprained shoulder, and extensive bruising, Dr. Grant replied, her tone clinical, but with an edge that suggested she was barely containing her anger. She was struck by a vehicle while wandering alone in a dangerous storm at midnight. Can you explain why a 16-year-old child was out in those conditions? Diane, the stepmother, a thin woman with sharp features and carefully styled blonde hair, stepped forward. This is a private family matter, doctor. We don't owe you an explanation. You do when that child ends up in my emergency room with injuries that could have been fatal, Dr. Grant shot back. She told me you threw her out of the house. Is that true? Richard's jaw tightened. Like my wife said, this is a family matter. Maya has been difficult lately. She's been lying, stealing, causing problems. We were teaching her accountability. Accountability. Dr. Grant's voice dropped to something dangerous. You call abandoning a 16-year-old girl in a severe thunderstorm accountability? She's a child, Mr. Torres. Your child. She's old enough to understand consequences, Diane interjected, her voice defensive. She stole money from our daughter. $200. She's been spreading lies about our family, turning people against us. We had to take a firm stand. Dr. Grant looked at Diane with barely concealed disgust. Your idea of a firm stand nearly got her killed. She was wandering the streets, alone, in a storm, with nowhere to go and no way to call for help. Do you understand what could have happened to her? What had happened to her? Richard's face reddened. Now wait just a minute. No, you wait. Dr. Grant stepped closer, her voice low but fierce. I've been doing this job for 12 years. I know what child abandonment looks like. I know what neglect looks like. And I know what parents look like when they're more interested in being right than in protecting their children. How dare you, Diane began. I dare because I took an oath to protect my patients, Dr. Grant interrupted. And right now, Maya is my patient. Which means you don't get to see her until I'm satisfied that it's safe for her. Richard's expression hardened. You can't keep us from our own daughter. Actually, I can. And I am. Hospital policy allows me to restrict visitors when I believe they pose a threat to a patient's physical or emotional well-being. Dr. Grant crossed her arms. Security is right around the corner if you'd like to test that. For a moment, the hallway was silent except for the distant beeping of monitors and the soft squeak of nurses' shoes on linoleum. Then Diane's mask cracked, just slightly. This is ridiculous. We're not the villains here. Maya is manipulative. She's been playing victim for years, trying to turn everyone against us. You don't know what we've been dealing with. You're right, Dr. Grant said coldly. I don't know what you've been dealing with. But I know what Maya's been dealing with. And from where I'm standing, it looks like she's been dealing with parents who chose pride over compassion. Before either of them could respond, a new voice cut through the tension. Mr. and Mrs. Torres? They all turned to see a woman in her 50s approaching, carrying a leather folder and wearing an expression of professional concern. Her badge identified her as Claudia Ross, Social Services. I'm going to need to speak with you, Claudia said, her tone leaving no room for argument. Separately and together. This way, please. Richard opened his mouth to protest, but Claudia was already walking toward a private consultation room, clearly expecting them to follow. With visible reluctance, they did. Dr. Grant watched them go, then released a long breath and returned to Maya's room. The social worker, Claudia Ross, was a woman who'd seen it all and wasn't easily fooled. She reviewed Maya's case with a deepening frown, flipping through school reports, medical records, and notes from the police officer who'd responded to the accident scene. "This isn't the first incident," Claudia said quietly to Dr. Grant after interviewing the Torres family separately. They stood in a small office, door closed, speaking in low tones. Teachers flagged concerns twice this year. Maya's grades dropped suddenly last semester. She stopped participating in class, withdrew from extracurricular activities she used to love. One teacher noted she seemed afraid to go home. Dr. Grant's hands tightened on the back of the chair she stood behind. Did anyone follow up on those concerns? They tried. Called the house. Richard Torres assured them everything was fine, that Maya was just going through typical teenage moodiness. Diane was present for the conversation, backed him up. Without concrete evidence of abuse or neglect, there wasn't much they could do. And now? Claudia closed the folder. Now we have a 16-year-old in the hospital because her parents threw her out in a dangerous storm. That changes things considerably. She paused. I'd like to talk to Maya myself. Assess her mental state, hear her side of the story directly. She's awake, Dr. Grant said. But she's scared. Be gentle. Always am, Claudia replied. Dr. Grant sat beside Maya's hospital bed while Claudia pulled up a chair on the other side. Maya looked small beneath the white hospital blankets, her dark hair spread across the pillow, a bruise blooming purple along her cheekbone. Maya, Claudia began gently, my name is Claudia Ross. I'm a social worker with Child Protective Services. I'm here to make sure you're safe and to understand what happened tonight. Is it okay if I ask you some questions? Maya glanced at Dr. Grant, who gave her an encouraging nod. Okay, she whispered. Can you tell me what happened before you ended up walking in the storm? Maya's fingers twisted in the blanket. She took a shaky breath and began to speak, slowly at first, then faster as the words poured out like they'd been dammed up for years. She told Claudia about Emma's accusation, about the $200 Emma claimed was missing, about how her father had demanded Maya confess, and when she insisted she was innocent, he'd called her a liar and told her to leave. My stepsister told them I stole money from her room, Maya said, her voice hollow. I didn't. I swear I didn't. But my dad believed her immediately. He always believes her. Has this happened before? Claudia asked. Your stepsister accusing you of things? Maya nodded slowly. All the time. Since she and Diane moved in, it's been like this. Things go missing and somehow it's always my fault. Emma breaks something and I get punished. She does poorly on a test, and it's because I distracted her. Her voice grew more agitated. I can't do anything right anymore. No matter how hard I try, I'm always the problem. Dr. Grant reached over and gently squeezed Maya's hand. Maya gripped it like a lifeline. Every time something goes wrong, it's my fault, Maya continued, tears sliding down her cheeks. Diane moved in when I was 12. My mom had died 2 years before that, and I thought Dad was lonely. I thought it would be good for him to be happy again. I tried so hard to make Emma feel welcome, to treat her like a real sister. But Maya's voice broke. She hates me. And Diane hates me. And now my dad hates me too. Your father doesn't hate you, Claudia said softly. Yes, he does. Maya's voice was bitter. He threw me out. He looked at me like I was garbage and told me to leave. That's not what you do to someone you love. Claudia made notes, her expression carefully neutral. Before tonight, before you were told to leave, did you ever feel unsafe at home? Maya was quiet for a long moment. I felt unwelcome. Like I was always walking on eggshells, trying not to upset anyone. Diane would make these little comments about my weight, my clothes, my friends. Emma would go through my things and then deny it. Dad just stopped seeing me. It was like I became invisible except when something went wrong. Did anyone ever hurt you physically? Claudia asked. No, not like that. They made me feel like I didn't belong there anymore. Like I was a guest who'd overstayed her welcome. Dr. Grant felt something crack inside her chest. She'd lived this exact story once. Different names, different faces, but the same crushing feeling of being unwanted in the place that was supposed to be home. Maya, Dr. Grant said carefully, keeping her voice steady despite the emotion threatening to break through. What if I told you that you don't have to go back there? Maya looked up, eyes wide and red-rimmed. What do you mean? I mean there are options. Safe options. Places where you can stay while we figure out what's best for you long-term. Like foster care? Maya's voice was small, frightened. Claudia leaned forward. Possibly. Or we might be able to find a temporary guardian, someone willing to provide a stable home while we sort out the situation with your father and stepmother. There are emergency placement options. Who would want me? Maya whispered. I'm just some kid nobody wants. That's not true, Dr. Grant said firmly. And I'm going to prove it to you. Over the next 3 days, while Maya recovered in the hospital, Dr. Grant did something she'd been thinking about for years, but had never had the opportunity to do. She applied to become an emergency foster caregiver. The process was faster than normal foster licensing because of her professional credentials, her clean background check, and the urgent nature of Maya's situation. Claudia fast-tracked the paperwork, conducted a home visit, verified Dr. Grant's references. On the 3rd day, Claudia returned to Maya's hospital room with news. Maya, she said, you have a choice. Your father and stepmother have agreed to a temporary separation while we investigate the circumstances of what happened. You can go to a traditional foster placement or... She glanced at Dr. Grant. Dr. Grant has offered to serve as your emergency guardian. Maya's eyes widened. She looked at Dr. Grant, searching her face for any sign of pity or obligation. You want me to live with you? Dr. Grant sat on the edge of the bed, her expression open and honest. I do, but only if you're comfortable with that. This is your choice, Maya. You get to decide. Why? Maya's voice trembled. Why would you do this? You don't even know me. Dr. Grant took a slow breath. When I was 17, just a year older than you are now, someone did this for me. A teacher named Mrs. Loischin. My own parents had thrown me out too, for reasons that didn't matter then and don't matter now. Mrs. Chin took me in, gave me a safe place to land, helped me get back on my feet. She paused, making sure Maya was really hearing her. Mrs. Chin told me something I'll never forget. She said, you didn't fail your family. They failed you. And that changed everything for me. It helped me understand that I wasn't broken or unlovable. I'd just been in a situation where the people who should have protected me couldn't or wouldn't. Maya's eyes filled with fresh tears. I promised myself that if I ever had the chance, I'd do the same for someone else, Dr. Grant continued. I'd be the person who shows up. Who says yes when everyone else says no? Who reminds a hurting kid that they're worth showing up for? She reached out and gently wiped a tear from Maya's cheek. You're not broken, Maya. You're not too much or too difficult or too anything. You're surviving. And now you get to do more than just survive. You get to heal. You get to thrive. Maya stared at her, struggling to process words she'd never heard before. Words that felt impossible but desperately wanted to believe. I choose you, Maya whispered finally. If you really mean it, I choose you. Dr. Grant smiled, warm and genuine. I really mean it. Welcome home, Maya. 3 days later, Maya walked into Dr. Grant's home carrying a single backpack containing everything she owned. Claudia had retrieved her belongings from the Torres house while Maya was still in the hospital. It all fit in one bag. Clothes, a few books, some photographs of her mother. Everything else, all the accumulated stuff of her childhood, had been left behind. Diane had made it clear through Claudia that Maya wasn't welcome to return for anything more. The house sat on a quiet street lined with oak trees, their leaves just beginning to turn autumn gold. It was a modest 2-story home with cream-colored siding and dark blue shutters. Nothing fancy, but well-maintained and welcoming. Dr. Grant unlocked the front door and gestured Maya inside. The interior took Maya's breath away. Not because it was grand or expensive, but because it felt like an actual home. Warm. Lived in. Safe. Sunlight poured through large windows, illuminating hardwood floors and built-in bookshelves crammed with medical texts, novels, and photo albums. A comfortable-looking couch faced a modest television. Plants sat on the windowsills, healthy and green. The whole place smelled faintly of vanilla and coffee. The living room, Dr. Grant said, gesturing around. Kitchen's through there. Bathroom is down the hall. And your room is upstairs. Maya followed her up the stairs, each step feeling surreal. Was this really happening? Was she really going to stay here? Dr. Grant opened a door at the top of the stairs, and Maya's breath caught. The bedroom was small but bright, painted a soft, calming blue. A bed with a thick comforter sat against one wall. A desk and chair occupied the corner by the window. An empty bookshelf waited to be filled. A lamp cast warm light across everything. "This is your room," Dr. Grant said, opening a door to a small bedroom painted soft blue. "It's yours for as long as you need it." Maya set down her backpack slowly, as if afraid the room might vanish if she moved too quickly. She touched the desk, the dresser, the soft quilt on the bed, testing to see if they were real. You did all this for me?" Maya's voice was barely a whisper. "I wanted you to have your own space," Dr. Grant said. "Somewhere that's just yours. I know it's not much, but it's perfect." Maya turned to face her, tears already streaming down her face. "Nobody's ever. I've never had." She couldn't finish the sentence. Dr. Grant sat on the edge of the bed and patted the space beside her. Maya sat down carefully, maintaining a small distance, still not quite sure how close she was allowed to be. "Maya, I need you to understand something," Dr. Grant said gently. "This isn't charity. This isn't pity. And this isn't temporary unless you want it to be. I'm not doing this because I feel sorry for you. I'm doing this because you deserve better than what you've been given. And because I believe that when we have the power to help someone, we should." Maya wiped at her eyes with the back of her hand. "But why me? There are lots of kids who need help. Why did you choose me?" "Because you were the one in front of me," Dr. Grant said simply. "Because on that rainy night, our paths crossed at exactly the moment when I could do something. Maybe that's coincidence. Maybe it's fate. I don't know. But what I do know is that you're here now, and I'm glad you are." She reached over and took Maya's hand, her grip warm and steady. "I know trust is hard after what you've been through. I know you're probably waiting for me to change my mind or get tired of you or decide you're too much trouble. But I need you to hear this, really hear it. You belong here. Not because you earned it or because you're perfect or because you'll never make mistakes. You belong here because you exist, and that's enough." Maya's shoulders shook with silent sobs. Dr. Grant pulled her into a gentle embrace, and Maya finally let herself break down completely. All the fear, all the hurt, all the years of feeling unwanted poured out of her in great, heaving cries. Dr. Grant just held her, one hand rubbing soothing circles on her back, murmuring quiet reassurances. "It's okay. Let it out. I've got you. You're safe now. I've got you." Eventually, the sobs subsided into hiccups, then into shaky breaths. Maya pulled back, embarrassed, wiping her face on her sleeve. "Sorry," she mumbled. "Never apologize for having feelings," Dr. Grant said firmly. "You've been through trauma. Crying is healthy. It's human. And in this house, you're allowed to be human." Maya managed a watery smile. "In my old house, crying made Diane mad. She said it was manipulative. That I was just trying to get attention." Dr. Grant's expression hardened for just a moment before softening again. "In this house, crying means you're hurt and you need comfort. That's all. And you'll always get that here." She stood and pulled a tissue box from the dresser, handing it to Maya. "Why don't you unpack and settle in?" Dr. Grant suggested. "Take your time. Make the space yours. I'll be downstairs making dinner. Come down whenever you're ready. No rush." As Dr. Grant reached the door, Maya called out softly, "Sienna." Dr. Grant turned. "Yes, thank you. For everything." Dr. Grant's smile was gentle and genuine. "Always, Maya. Always." The days that followed settled into a rhythm Maya didn't realize she'd been craving her entire life. Structure, but not rigidity. Expectations, but not impossible ones. Care, but not conditions. Every morning, Dr. Grant knocked softly on Maya's door around 7 o'clock. "Good morning, sweetheart. Time to wake up." breakfast in 20 minutes. Sweetheart. The endearment had startled Maya at first, then warmed her. Now it felt like the most natural thing in the world. They'd eat breakfast together at the small kitchen table. Nothing fancy. Toast, eggs, fruit, cereal. But they'd sit and talk about the day ahead, about small things, about nothing in particular. The normalcy of it was almost overwhelming. How are you feeling today? Dr. Grant would ask, and she genuinely wanted to know. She'd check Maya's healing ribs, monitor her concussion symptoms, make sure she was taking her pain medication. But she'd also ask about Maya's emotional state. How are you really feeling? What's going on in your head? At first, Maya would just shrug and say she was fine. Old habits died hard. But gradually, she began to open up. I'm scared, she admitted one morning. I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. For you to decide I'm too much trouble. Dr. Grant had looked at her seriously. That fear makes sense given what you've experienced. But Maya, I need you to know that I make commitments carefully. When I said you could stay here, I meant it. I'm not going to change my mind. But what if I mess up? What if I do something wrong? Then we'll talk about it, figure out what happened, and work through it together, Dr. Grant said. Making mistakes doesn't mean you get thrown away. It means you're human and you're learning. Those conversations, small and simple, began to rewire something fundamental in Maya's understanding of what love and family could be. Dr. Grant worked long shifts at the hospital, sometimes 12 or 14 hours. On those days, Maya would come home from school to an empty house, which had terrified her at first. But Dr. Grant had prepared for this. She'd stocked the fridge with easy-to-make meals. She'd written her cell phone number on a card and stuck it to the refrigerator. She'd told Maya exactly when she'd be home and always followed through. If you need anything, call me, Dr. Grant had said. I don't care if I'm in the middle of surgery. If you need me, I'll step out and call you back as soon as I can. The first time Maya called, it was because she couldn't figure out how to work the oven and was afraid of breaking it. Dr. Grant had answered on the second ring, her voice warm despite the background noise of the ER. Hey, Maya. Everything okay? I'm sorry to bother you, Maya had said quickly. I don't know how to use the oven, and I didn't want to break anything. You're not bothering me, Dr. Grant interrupted gently. Let's figure this out together. What are you trying to make? They'd walked through it step by step, Dr. Grant patiently explaining the controls, telling Maya it was okay if she made mistakes, that ovens were meant to be used. When Dr. Grant came home that night, she'd found Maya sitting at the table with a slightly burned but edible casserole, looking proud and nervous at the same time. I made dinner, Maya had said shyly. Dr. Grant had beamed at her. You did. And it smells amazing. Let's eat. The casserole had been mediocre at best, but they'd eaten every bite, and Dr. Grant had praised Maya's effort and independence. That night, Maya had gone to bed feeling like maybe, just maybe, she could do things right. Therapy started 2 weeks after Maya moved in. Dr. Grant had connected her with Dr. Patricia Lee, a trauma specialist who worked with teenagers. Maya had been resistant at first. I'm not crazy, she'd said defensively. I know you're not, Dr. Grant had replied calmly. But you've been through something difficult, and talking to someone trained to help process trauma can make healing easier. I see a therapist too, by the way. It's not about being broken. It's about having support. You see a therapist? Once a month, for the last 8 years, Dr. Grant confirmed. Best decision I ever made. So Maya went. And at first, she hated it. Dr. Lee asked probing questions that made Maya uncomfortable. Made her talk about feelings she'd buried deep. Made her confront the reality that her father had chosen his new wife and stepdaughter over his own child. But gradually, slowly, therapy began to help. Dr. Lee taught Maya about something called cognitive distortions. The lies her brain told her about herself that weren't based in reality. I'm unlovable, Maya had said one session. Is that true? Dr. Lee had asked. Or is that what you've been told? Maya had paused. I guess it's what I've been told. Exactly. That's not your truth. That's a false narrative someone else wrote for you. Let's write a new one. What's actually true about you? It had taken Maya several sessions to even begin answering that question. But eventually, she'd come up with, I'm a survivor. I'm resilient. I'm worthy of love. Dr. Lee had smiled. Yes, you are. School was another challenge. Maya had missed 2 weeks due to the accident and hospital stay, and catching up felt overwhelming. But Dr. Grant had spoken with Maya's teachers, explained the situation, without going into details Maya didn't want shared, and arranged for accommodations. Extended deadlines. Tutoring. A counselor check-in once a week. Maya threw herself into schoolwork with a desperate intensity. If she could just be perfect, just prove she was worth keeping. Dr. Grant noticed the pattern and gently intervened. Maya, your worth isn't tied to your grades. But I need to do well, Maya insisted. I can't mess this up. You're not going to mess anything up, Dr. Grant said. And even if your grades slip, even if you fail a test, you'll still have a home here. I'm not your father. I'm not going to withdraw love because you're not perfect. That conversation had ended with Maya in tears again, overwhelmed by the concept of unconditional support. But she began to believe it. Because Dr. Grant proved it over and over. When Maya got a C on a math test, Dr. Grant didn't yell or punish. She asked if Maya wanted help studying for the next one. When Maya forgot to do her chores one week, Dr. Grant didn't make her feel like a failure. She just gently reminded her, and they did them together. When Maya accidentally broke a glass while doing dishes, Dr. Grant didn't get angry. She just said, "It happens. Let's clean it up," and showed her how to safely dispose of the shards. Every small interaction rewrote years of conditioning that said mistakes meant rejection. 3 months after moving in, Dr. Grant handed Maya a small silver key on a purple lanyard. "What's this?" Maya asked, turning it over in her hands. "Your house key," Dr. Grant said simply. "This is your home too. You should be able to come and go without needing me to let you in." Maya stared at the key like it was made of precious metal. No one had ever given her a key before. No one had ever wanted her to stay badly enough to give her permanent access. "Are you sure?" Maya whispered. "Completely sure," Dr. Grant said. "This isn't temporary for me, Maya. I'm in this for the long haul. And I want you to know that. This key is a symbol of that commitment." Maya's fingers closed around the key, and she felt something shift inside her. A tiny seed of belief that maybe, just maybe, she could have a home that wouldn't vanish. That night, she put the key on her keychain. And every time she unlocked the door to come home, she felt a little more like she belonged. But healing doesn't erase the past. And sometimes, the past comes looking for you. For years later, Maya was in college, studying social work at a state university 2 hours away from home. She'd moved into the dorms, but came back to visit Dr. Grant every few weeks. Their relationship had evolved from guardian and ward to something deeper. Something that felt like real family. Maya was in the library when she received the Facebook message from an unknown account. At first, she thought it was spam and almost deleted it. But something made her click on it. The message was short and cryptic. "You don't know me, but I know what happened to you 4 years ago. Your stepsister lied. I have proof. If you want to know the truth, message me back." Maya's blood ran cold. Her hands started shaking so badly she almost dropped her phone. She read the message 3 more times, her heart pounding, her mind racing. This had to be a cruel joke. Some kind of scam. Why would someone reach out now, after all this time? But what if it wasn't a joke? What if there really was proof? Maya grabbed her phone and called Dr. Grant, her hands still trembling. Dr. Grant answered on the first ring, concern already in her voice. She always seemed to know when Maya needed her. "Maya? Everything okay?" I don't know." Maya's voice came out shaky. "Someone just messaged me on Facebook. They say they have proof about what happened that night. The night I was kicked out. They say Emma lied." There was a pause on the other end of the line. Then Dr. Grant's voice, steady and calm. "Do you want to know the truth?" I think so, but I'm scared. What if it's worse than I remember? What if knowing makes it hurt more? Or, Dr. Grant said gently, what if knowing sets you free? But Maya, this is your choice. You don't have to respond. You don't owe anyone, including yourself, a confrontation with the past. Maya closed her eyes, breathing slowly the way Dr. Lee had taught her. I need to know. I've spent 4 years wondering if maybe I did do something wrong. If maybe I deserved what happened. I need to know the truth. Then find out, Dr. Grant said. And whatever you learn, we'll deal with it together. You're not alone in this. Those words, "you're not alone," gave Maya the courage to type out a response to the mysterious message. Who are you? And how do you have proof? The response came within minutes. My name is Claire Donovan. I was your neighbor for 6 years. I should have spoken up then, but I was afraid. I've been carrying this guilt for too long. Can we meet somewhere to talk? I'll bring what I have. 2 days later, Maya sat in a quiet coffee shop across from a woman in her mid-40s with kind eyes and nervous hands. Claire Donovan looked exactly like Maya remembered her, the neighbor who used to wave from her front porch, who sometimes brought over extra vegetables from her garden. Thank you for meeting me, Claire said, her voice trembling slightly. I've been trying to work up the courage to contact you for 2 years. What do you know? Maya asked, her own coffee untouched, her entire focus on Claire. Claire reached into her bag and pulled out a small external hard drive. I have security cameras on my house. They cover my driveway and part of the street. But they also capture a portion of your father's front porch and driveway. Maya's heart started pounding. The night you were kicked out, Claire continued, I knew something was wrong. I heard shouting. I saw you leave in the storm. I wanted to help, but She trailed off, guilt written across her face. I was afraid of getting involved, of making things worse. I told myself it wasn't my business. What changed? Maya asked quietly. Time. Guilt. The knowledge that I could have helped a child and chose not to. Claire pushed the hard drive across the table. But I saved the footage from that night. And from several other nights before it. Because even then, I knew something wasn't right. Maya stared at the hard drive like it might bite her. What's on it? The truth, Claire said simply. About what really happened that night. About what Emma did. With shaking hands, Maya picked up the drive. Can I watch it here? Claire pulled out a laptop. That's why I brought this. Maya plugged in the drive with Dr. Grant on speakerphone. She'd called her before opening any files, needing that connection, that support. The first video file was dated the night Maya was kicked out. Timestamp, 11:47 p.m. The footage was grainy but clear enough. It showed Emma sneaking out of the Torres house, looking around to make sure no one saw her, then jogging down the street to where a car was waiting. Emma got in. The car drove away. Timestamp, 1:23 a.m. Emma returned, stumbling slightly, laughing. She looked drunk or high. She pulled something from her pocket, cash, and counted it before stuffing it back. Then, clear as day, Emma retrieved something from under a bush. Maya's school bag. Emma unzipped it, looked around once more, then pulled out a wallet from her own jacket pocket and stuffed it deep into Maya's bag. She zipped it back up, returned it to the hiding spot, and went inside the house. Timestamp, 6:47 a.m. Emma emerged from the house again, this time with Diane. She was crying dramatically, pointing to her room, gesturing wildly. Even without audio, the performance was obvious. Diane looked appropriately shocked and outraged. She marched back inside. Minutes later, Maya's father emerged, went to the hiding spot, retrieved Maya's bag, and brought it inside. The next video showed that evening, Maya being pushed out the door into the rain. Maya watched in stunned, horrified silence as her entire childhood, her entire understanding of that night, unraveled before her eyes. Emma had set her up. Deliberately. Coldly. Systematically. She'd stolen from her own mother, planted the evidence on Maya, and played the victim so convincingly that everyone believed her. And Maya's father had thrown her out without a second thought. Dr. Grant's voice came through the phone, gentle but firm. Maya? Sweetheart, talk to me. She framed me. Maya's voice was hollow. Emma planned it. She knew exactly what she was doing. Yes, Dr. Grant said quietly. And my father believed her without even questioning it. Without giving me a chance to defend myself. Yes. Maya's hands clenched into fists. I spent 4 years thinking maybe I did something to deserve it. That maybe I was a bad daughter. That maybe something was wrong with me. There was never anything wrong with you, Dr. Grant said fiercely. This proves it. You were a child being scapegoated and manipulated. None of it was your fault. Claire, who'd been sitting silently across the table, spoke up. There's more. Other incidents. I have footage of Emma taking things from your porch and hiding them in her own yard. Of her sneaking out multiple times. Of her staging situations to make you look bad. Maya felt tears streaming down her face, but they weren't sad tears. They were angry tears. Vindicated tears. Why didn't you tell anyone? Maya asked, not accusingly, but genuinely wanting to understand. Claire's own eyes filled with tears. Because I was a coward. Because I convinced myself it wasn't my place. Because I was afraid of the Torres family retaliating, of causing drama in the neighborhood. I told myself that someone else would notice, someone else would help. And by the time I realized no one was coming, you were already gone. She reached across the table, her hand stopping just short of Maya's. I am so sorry. I failed you. And I've had to live with that for 4 years. This doesn't make up for it. Nothing can. But I wanted you to have the truth. You deserved the truth then, and you deserve it now. Maya looked at this woman who'd carried her secret and her guilt for so long. What do you want me to do with this? Maya asked. Whatever you want, Claire said. Confront them. Report them. Keep it for yourself. Or destroy it and never think about it again. It's yours now. The truth is yours. Maya didn't confront them immediately. She waited. She thought. She talked to Dr. Grant, to Dr. Lee, to Claudia, who was still involved in Maya's life as a friend and mentor. She processed the footage, the proof, the vindication, and the rage. Because there was rage. Deep, burning anger at the injustice of it all. At the years she'd lost believing she was the problem. At the father who'd chosen so easily to discard her. But beneath the rage was something else. Grief. For the family she'd never really had. For the father who'd failed her so completely. For the childhood that had been stolen by manipulation and cruelty. Dr. Lee helped her work through it in therapy. You're allowed to be angry, Dr. Lee said. Anger is appropriate here. This was a betrayal of the highest order. But I don't want to be consumed by it, Maya said. I don't want them to take any more from me than they already have. Then we work on healthy ways to process and release the anger, Dr. Lee suggested. You confront them if that will help you heal. You cut them off completely if that's healthier. You take whatever action serves your well-being, not their comfort. Maya thought about it for 2 years. 2 more years of college, of building her life, of becoming who she wanted to be. And then she made her decision. Maya graduated top of her class with a degree in social work and a minor in psychology. She'd been offered a position at a nonprofit organization that provided support services for teens aging out of foster care and transitional housing programs. It was the job she'd been working toward since she was 18, since she'd realized that her pain could be transformed into purpose. Dr. Grant sat in the audience at her graduation, crying tears of pride. Claudia was there too, beaming. Dr. Lee had sent flowers and a card that said simply, "You did it. I'm so proud of you." On the day of her graduation party, a small gathering at Dr. Grant's house with close friends and chosen family, Maya sent one final message to her father and stepmother. She drafted it carefully, revised it dozens of times, made sure every word was exactly what she wanted to say. The email read, Richard and Diane. I'm writing to inform you of something I discovered 2 years ago, but am only now choosing to share. I have video evidence proving that Emma deliberately framed me for the theft she blamed me for on the night you threw me out. Security camera footage from a neighbor shows Emma stealing money from Diane's wallet, planting the evidence in my bag, and staging the entire situation to make me look guilty. I have footage of her doing similar things on multiple occasions leading up to that night. All the times I was accused of lying, of stealing, of causing problems, there's proof now that I was telling the truth and Emma was manipulating all of you. You threw me out into a dangerous storm based on a lie. You chose to believe her without question, without investigation, without giving me even the slightest benefit of the doubt. You called me a liar when I was telling the truth. You made me feel worthless when I was innocent. I'm not sending this because I want an apology. I'm sending this because I need you to know that I survived despite you, not because of you. I built a life. I found a real family. I became someone I'm proud of. And none of that happened because of anything you did. It happened because someone else chose to see my worth when you couldn't. This is the last communication you'll receive from me. I don't want a relationship. I don't need closure from you. I found my closure in therapy, in healing, in becoming someone who would never do to a child what you did to me. I'm attaching the relevant security footage so you can see exactly what your golden child did and exactly what you threw me away for. Don't contact me. Don't try to explain or justify. I don't care anymore. You no longer have the power to hurt me. Maya. She attached the video files. All of them. Then she blocked their email addresses, their phone numbers, and their social media accounts. And she felt free. Not happy exactly. Not vindicated in the way she'd imagined. But free from the weight of wondering, of doubting herself, of carrying the burden of blame for something that was never her fault. Dr. Grant found her standing on the back porch afterward, staring at the sunset. Did you send it? Dr. Grant asked quietly. I did. How do you feel? Maya considered. Lighter. Like I just put down something heavy I've been carrying for a really long time. Dr. Grant put an arm around her shoulders. Good. That's really good, sweetheart. They stood there in comfortable silence, watching the sky turn from gold to pink to purple. They might try to respond, Dr. Grant said eventually. Even though you blocked them. They might try to reach you through other means. I know, Maya said. But I meant what I said. I don't need anything from them anymore. And she realized it was true. The desperate need for their validation, their love, their approval, it had finally died. Replaced by something sturdier. Self-worth. Self-love. The knowledge that she was valuable regardless of whether they could see it. 5 years later, Maya stood on a stage at a national conference for child welfare advocates. She was 27 years old, confident in a way she never imagined possible, wearing a professional dress and speaking into a microphone to an audience of hundreds. I was 16 when my family abandoned me, she told them, her voice strong and clear. I was kicked out of my home, injured in an accident, and left to navigate systems that aren't always equipped to help kids like me. She paused, making eye contact with people in the audience. But I was also 16 when I learned what real family looks like. It's not about blood. It's not about whose last name you carry or who you share DNA with. It's about who shows up when you need them most. It's about who chooses you when they don't have to. It's about who makes space for you in their life and their heart. In the front row, Dr. Grant sat with tears in her eyes, just as she had at Maya's graduation. Beside her sat Mrs. Lois Chin, now in her 70s, the teacher who'd once done for Sienna what Sienna had later done for Maya. 3 generations of chosen family, of healing, of love passed forward. I founded the New Foundations Project because I know what it's like to age out of stability, Maya continued. I know what it's like to wonder if you'll ever have a place to call home. And I know that with the right support, kids who've been told they're worthless can become people who change the world. The audience erupted in applause. After the speech, a young girl approached Maya, maybe 15 or 16, clutching a crumpled notebook. Her clothes were clean but worn. Her eyes held the same haunted look Maya remembered seeing in her own reflection years ago. Miss Torres, the girl whispered, her voice shaking. My foster parents, they say I'm too much. Too emotional. Too difficult. They're sending me back to the group home next week. Her voice cracked. But hearing you speak, it made me think, maybe I'm not broken. Maybe there's hope. Maya knelt down to meet the girl's eyes, recognizing herself so clearly in this child's fear and fragile hope. What's your name? Maya asked gently. Jess. Jess, listen to me very carefully. Maya took both of the girl's hands. You are not broken. You are not too much. You're surviving in a system that sometimes fails the very people it's supposed to protect. And that's not your fault. The girl's eyes filled with tears. Write down your information for me, Maya said, pulling out her phone. Our organization helps kids in exactly your situation. We'll find you placement. We'll make sure you have support. You're not going back to that group home unless you want to. Jess stared at her like she'd just offered the impossible. You'd help me? Why? Because someone helped me when I needed it most, Maya said. And now I get to pass that forward. To you. To every kid who thinks they're alone. The girl threw her arms around Maya, sobbing with relief and hope. Maya held her close, feeling the circle complete itself once again. This was why she'd survived. This was why the storm hadn't destroyed her. So she could be the shelter for someone else. That evening, Maya returned to Dr. Grant's house, the house that would always be home no matter where else Maya lived. They'd started a tradition years ago. On the anniversary of the night Maya was kicked out, they sat together on the back porch, drank tea, and reminded each other how far they'd come. Another successful year, Dr. Grant said, handing Maya her favorite chamomile blend. 317 kids place through your program now. 318, Maya corrected with a small smile. Met a girl at the conference today. We're getting her placed with a family in her school district so she doesn't have to change schools. Dr. Grant's eyes shone with pride. You're amazing, you know that? I learned from the best, Maya said, leaning her head on Dr. Grant's shoulder the way she'd done 1,000 times before. They sat in comfortable silence, watching fireflies begin to light up the darkening yard. Do you ever think about them? Dr. Grant asked quietly. Your father. Emma. Diane. Maya considered. Sometimes. But not with pain anymore. It's more like remembering a story that happened to someone else. It doesn't have power over me the way it used to. That's growth, Dr. Grant said. Emma actually reached out last year, Maya admitted. Sent me a long email apologizing for what she did. Said she'd been in therapy and was making amends. Dr. Grant straightened slightly. You didn't tell me that. Because it didn't matter, Maya said. I read it once, acknowledged to myself that it was too little too late, and deleted it. Her guilt isn't my responsibility to absolve. How did that feel? Powerful, Maya said. Knowing I could hear from her and feel nothing. Not anger, not vindication, just indifference. She's a stranger who hurt me once. That's all. Dr. Grant squeezed her hand. I'm so proud of who you've become. Maya turned to look at her, this woman who'd changed everything, who'd shown her what unconditional love actually looked like. I need to tell you something, Maya said. I've been thinking about it for a while, and I want to know how you'd feel about it. Okay, Dr. Grant said, giving her full attention. I want to legally change my last name, Maya said. To Grant. If you're okay with that. Dr. Grant's eyes widened, then immediately filled with tears. Maya. You're my family, Maya said firmly. You're the person who showed up. Who chose me. Who loved me when I couldn't love myself. Torres is just a name attached to people who failed me. But Grant represents everything I've become. Everything you helped me build. Dr. Grant pulled her into a tight embrace, both of them crying now. I would be honored, she whispered. So incredibly honored. They held each other as the fireflies danced and the evening settled into comfortable darkness. Maya never reconnected with Richard, Diane, or Emma. She didn't need to. She'd built a life so full of love, purpose, and chosen family that their absence didn't leave a hole. Emma's apology had been genuine, as far as Maya could tell. But some bridges aren't meant to be rebuilt. Some wounds, even when healed, leave scars that serve as reminders of lessons learned. Richard had apparently divorced Diane 3 years after Maya left. The details were fuzzy, but from what Claudia had heard through mutual connections, Emma's lies had eventually caught up with her. She'd been caught stealing from her college roommate, expelled, and sent home. That's when the pattern became undeniable, even to Richard. But he never reached out to apologize to Maya. Never tried to make amends. And Maya had long since stopped waiting for him to. Today, Maya Grant runs one of the most successful youth advocacy nonprofits in the state. The New Foundations project has helped over 500 teens find stable housing, scholarships, mentorship, and hope. She's been featured in magazines, invited to speak at conferences around the country, and most importantly, she's made a tangible difference in hundreds of young lives. But her favorite moments aren't the accolades or the recognition. They're the small ones. The text messages from kids she's helped years later, telling her they graduated college. The photos of teens in their first apartments, smiling with pride. The thank you notes that say simply, "You saved my life." And every year on the anniversary of that storm, Maya visits Dr. Grant. They sit on the same back porch where Maya once imagined her life might end, where she'd stood shivering and alone, convinced she was worthless. But now she sits wrapped in a warm blanket, tea in hand, surrounded by love, knowing the truth. The storm didn't break her. It led her exactly where she needed to be. Home. If this story touched you, please share it with someone who needs to hear it today. And if you've ever felt abandoned, overlooked, or unwanted, remember this: your worth isn't determined by people who couldn't see it. Your value exists independent of whether others recognize it. And somewhere out there, there's someone who will choose you, who will show up for you, who will remind you that you are never the problem. Thank you for watching. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to Fireside Tales.